7:46.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Talking politics with Phil Goff.
Leader of the Labour Party, Phil Goff, with us this morning. Good morning, Phil.
G'day, Wammo.
Over the weekend, the first ever OpenLabourNZ conference was held. Now, this is a way for Labour to promise to improve transparency and the ways that public can engage with government, particularly, of course, online. Can you give us the general gist and the guts of what was discussed over the weekend?
Yeah, well, I think it's sort of using new technology to build on very old principles. Democracy began in Athens when you had a city-state that was small enough that people could talk directly to their politicians and influence decisions. We're a much bigger society now, but what new technology does is enable politicians to have two-way communications with the electorate, for example. You know, I use Facebook and people are sending messages in and we reply to those that raise questions. There's a discussion around what you're doing. And what we're talking about is using that sort of technology to develop our policy. So we thought we'd start with a policy on open and transparent government, and we'd develop that policy in an open and transparent way, letting people come in. We had people calling in from the States, one of Obama's advisors. We had a senator from Australia calling in. We had people, we were streaming online, and we had people actually in the room. And the idea of that process was to give people a chance to be directly involved with the development of policy. Now, they might not have the final say in it, but they put up ideas, and those ideas will be taken seriously. So we were talking about ways in which we could get people participating more directly in the government over the things that matter in their lives.
And one of the things you have brought up is, that interaction on Facebook, perhaps on other sites like Twitter as well. But how do you manage that on a day-to-day basis? Because once you open it up like that, you could be opening up the floodgates and you could be inundated with all kinds of, valid arguments, but also crazies out there as well.
Oh, yeah, but that's the same thing. There's no difference there from going along and holding a public meeting. You get some people along that make some really sensible ideas, and you always get some people from left field that come in with some really weird and wonderful suggestions. I suppose the only thing is, people said, does technology really help you in the way in which you conduct your affairs politically? And I gave an honest answer, and I said every piece of new technology that's been brought in from the days, when they first gave us a fax machine, actually increases your workload. But it does mean that you can reach out to a wider range of people, and that's quite important. But you've still only got 24 hours in the day in which to do your job.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised quite often how much I hear politicians listening or being persuaded by anecdotal kind of crowdsourced opinions online, particularly with, say, the polls on the front page of Herald or Stuff. I think I heard Peter Dunn the other day saying, there was 10,000 people replied to a poll on the front page of the Herald, and they're all positive for my argument here. It is interesting how politicians obviously are human, and the egos can be either boosted or deflated by these kinds of technologies as well.
Yeah, that's true. But actually, I mean, some of the most influential things is the day-to-day work you do in your constituency office. And somebody comes in and says, look, this has been my experience. And that brings, what might otherwise be a theoretical discussion really to life. This is what's happened in this person's life. And your gut feeling is that it's wrong. I suppose, just to give you an example, I've been going around talking to people who used to get home care. They're frail elderly people, usually in their 80s. And suddenly, because of cost cutting, the $30 or $40 a week that they got to provide home care has been taken away. And you see the real impact on their lives, and you say, that's got to be wrong. So you're not just opposing something in Parliament because it's part of a political debate. You're talking people's stories. You're talking about what they've experienced, what you've seen at first hand, and that makes your argument that much more compelling in the political environment. Now, sometimes that can happen online as well, and I think, the real challenge in politics today is not to lose touch with the traditional ways of campaigning, the door knocking, the face-to-face at meetings, but also to take advantage of the new technology to make sure you're really well informed about what's happening in people's lives and what they're saying and thinking.
Is this also a fairly sort of shrewd political move for Labour to be seen as the technologically savvy, sort of party, particularly when you look at it in the context of American politics, where Obama was a big user of social media and technology, and it seemed to work for him?
Yeah, well, I think that's true, and the Labour MPs we've got our own website, Red Alert, and it's a very real debate. It's not artificial, it's not manufactured, it's actually people floating ideas, hearing or seeing the feedback that they get from them, and developing the debate. And I think that's a good thing. And a whole lot of our MPs are really into that. Claire Curran, who's our spokesperson on information and communications technology, Trevor Mallard, whole series of the MPs are deeply involved in that medium. And it's a good way for them to engage in the public, alongside what we're doing on radio or what we might do on Talkback or whatever. So it's expanding your outreach to the wider New Zealand population.
Okay, so it's all very well for the party to be really open and using technology like this in new ways, but what about, say, government departments at the coalface?
Yeah, well, I think, while Labour and government put a lot of material, more than any other government in history, online, and you had access to government information, what you want to try and do is to make the services that are provided by government departments a two-way form of communication. And I gave a couple of examples at the conference about how a mum that who was on a domestic purposes benefit wants to get back into the workforce, wants to get information, wants to make application online, or wants to be able to interact with officials other than simply going down to the department. Wants to hear what other people on Facebook might say about their own experiences. Well, these were the challenges of going out and getting work when you had childcare experience. So it's a way in which you can really become information rich when you want to make a decision about what you're going to do with your life. And I think our government departments, need to do more of that in the same way that you have that sort of interaction on other sites, Trade Me, etc., so that there's a two-way communication with your government department officials as well that can help people make the right decisions.
Phil Goff, leader of the Labour Party, thanks very much for your time.
Okay, thanks, Wammo. Catch you again next week. Cheers.